Alright, what's up guys? I'm going to talk about in this video how to find or how to write an equation in slope-intercept form if you're given a table. So this would be my xy relationship. This is going to turn out to be a linear relationship. The first thing I want to look for is my slope. So I'm looking for my change in y and my change in x. So I'm looking from here to here. That's up 2, from 8 to 10. 2 and 2. Those are my changes in y. Sometimes you'll see delta y. Delta meaning change. You can do the same thing on my x column. These are all going up by 1. So those are my changes in x. Slope is simply just putting the changes in y over the changes in x. So I'm going to have, in this case, a ratio, change in y over change in x for this problem is just going to be 2 over 1 because every single change in y is 2, every single change in x is 1. This is not always going to be the case that every single one looks exactly the same. You're going to see on my next example that sometimes not all the ratios look exactly the same, but they are still equal. So knowing how to get the slope, now all I have to look for is the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept, anything on the y-axis has a coordinate of 0 something. Because if you think about it on a graph, the y-axis is the horizontal, or is the vertical line, and I'd have points like 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4. All the coordinates on the y-axis are 0 something. If I look at my table, I see right here the point 0, 4. My line's going to go through that point. So that point 0, 4 is my y-intercept. If I know my slope and my y-intercept, it should be really easy to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. If I know the slope, I can put it in for m. If I know the y-intercept, I can put it in for b. And in this case, I know both. So all I have to do here, y equals, we figured out that the slope was 2, or 2 over 1, so y equals 2x. And plus b, I know the y-intercept was 4. So in this case, my equation is plus 4. Y equals 2x plus 4. I'm going to do another example in a second. Alright, so we have a new example here. Again, I'm going to start out trying to find my changes in y and my changes in x. So I'm looking here, a little different on this problem. I'm not going up this time. This time I'm going down 3, down 3, down 3, down 3. And my x column is going up 1, 1, 1, 1. Make sure you pay attention to those positives and negatives. You don't want to get your sign of your slope wrong. So in this case, again, I'm doing my changes in y over my changes in x. And I'm going to write a ratio, change in y over change in x is going to be negative 3 over 1. So I have my slope. I also, again, in the table, I have my y-intercept right here, 0, 5. That would be the point on the y-axis that the line goes through. So I know my b is 5. So I know my slope and my y-intercept. For this problem, it should be easy to write in y equals mx plus b format. Y equals negative 3x plus 5. Okay, so another example. Again, start out trying to find my slope. So this time I go here, 2 to 10, that's plus 8. 10 to 18 is plus 8 again. And 18 to 26, plus 8 again. Over here, it's plus 2, and plus 2. So a little different this time because my x column was not just going up by ones. When I go to write my ratios of change in y over change in x, I'm going to actually have to simplify. So my change in y, they were all 8. My change in x, this time was 2. So I'm not going to leave that fraction 8 over 2. I'm going to simplify it and say 4 over 1 or just 4. So I know my slope. Now here's the issue with this problem is when I look at the top of my table, there's no y-intercept there. It's 2, 2. It's not 0, 2. So none of these points are going to go through the y-axis. Now what I can do, you see how all of these points are going up 2, up 8, up 2, up 8. Well, if I reverse that and I counted backwards, I'm going to go above the table a little bit. If I reverse that, the pattern would then be minus 2, minus 8. Well, 2 minus 2 would give me 0. And then 2 minus 8 on this side would give me negative 6. So if I just continued that pattern, I actually do see I have the y-intercept. So again, I have my slope is 4. My y-intercept is negative 6. So my equation is going to be y equals 4x minus 6. Alright, so for this next example, I already did the changes in y and changes in x for you. What you might notice this time, if I go to write my ratios, none of them are going to be the same. So when I go to write change in y over change in x, my first one is 1 over 2. My next one is 2 over 4. And my last one is 5 over 10. Now none of those look exactly the same, but they all are actually equal. If they weren't equal, I wouldn't have a linear relationship and I wouldn't be able to write an equation at this time in slope-intercept form. But luckily they do all equal each other. 1/2, 2/4, and 5/10, these are just unsimplified, these second two. They're all equal to 1/2. That is going to be my slope for this problem. Again, like the last problem, if you look at the top of my table, I don't have my y-intercept. So I'm going to have to find it. Now, I just showed you on the last example that we could count backwards. But if that was this problem, I would have to do a lot of counting backwards. I would have to go back a couple times to get to 0 something for my y-intercept. So I'm going to show you a different way you could also do it. So we know slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. At this point, we know slope is m, and we know we can plug in for m because we just figured out that our slope is 1/2. So we can plug in 1/2 there. I also have a bunch of x and y's from this table. If I just want to take an example, one of these pairs from the table, I can plug in like 4 for x and 5 for y. Or if you think 6 and 6 would be easier to work with, you just have to pick one of these ordered pairs to plug in. So I'm going to plug in this pair. So I'm going to plug in 4 for x and 5 for y. Now the only thing I don't know is the plus b. So I'm just going to bring that down. And now I can just do some math. The only variable I don't have is b, so I can solve for that. Half of 4, 1/2 times 4 is 2. So this equation just says 2 plus b is 5. Well, 2 plus what is 5? Subtract 2 on both sides. You're going to get that b is equal to 3. So now at this time I have my y-intercept, I have my slope. All I have to do is put it together. Y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Alright. I'm going to post another video in case this one wasn't helpful enough. But these were 4 good examples, and I'm going to give you guys some practice problems to try on your own.